Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 1 NFL predictions. So, kicking things off with the NFL season opener on Thursday Night Football, we've got the Chiefs hosting the Ravens. So, we will have a live watch party for this game that will start at about 8:15 Eastern Time, and I hope to see you guys there. But this is a rematch of the AFC Championship game, and these two teams are great once again this season. This is a really tough game to predict. The Ravens are going to try to run the football a lot after the addition of Derrick Henry, and the Ravens have a revamped offensive line, but that could be a problem, as the Chiefs have a solid run defense, and I think the Ravens' new offensive line could cause problems not only in the run game, but in the pass game as well, as the Chiefs had the second most sacks in the regular season last year. Another interesting matchup is the Chiefs' offense against the Ravens' defense, as the Ravens had the number one scoring defense in the NFL last year, but lost key pieces like defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald, as well as linebacker Patrick Queen, whereas the Chiefs' offense got better with the addition of Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, although Hollywood Brown is out for this game. But this is a game definitely go either way. A great game to open up the season, and I've got the Chiefs beating the Ravens in a close one, 24-23. Moving to the game we have on Friday, that is the Eagles against the Packers in Brazil. So this is another tough game to predict. It's the first NFL game in Brazil, and it should be a great game, as these are two teams that should be very good this year. For the Packers, Jordan Love looks to build on a great second half of the season last year, and he could have a good game playing against the Eagles secondary that was terrible at the end of last season. Now, the Eagles did make additions to the secondary by drafting Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, as well as signing C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But obviously Mitchell and DeJean are rookies playing their first game, and the secondary could still be a problem for the Eagles early in the season. Then the Eagles' offense was good last season, and got even better after the addition of Saquon Barkley, and they face a Packers defense that wasn't good last year, but I think it's going to be much better this year. But this is going to be a higher scoring game. The defenses, I think, will be good later in the season, but will take time to adjust as both teams have new defensive coordinators. This is going to be a good game, back and forth. I think it'll be a higher scoring game, and I've got the Packers winning this one 31-26. Moving to Sunday's games, getting there, we've got the Falcons hosting the Steelers. So both teams have new starting quarterbacks, and both quarterbacks have been around for a while. The Steelers are starting Russell Wilson, and the Falcons now have Kirk Cousins. And this creates an interesting matchup, because the Falcons' offense was just about a quarterback away last year, and they don't have their quarterback in Kirk Cousins, and they face off against a very good Steelers defense, and that's going to make things really interesting. Another thing is, this is a revenge game for Arthur Smith, who was the Falcons' head coach last season, and is now offensive coordinator of the Steelers. But I don't think Arthur Smith's offense will get the job done, as the Falcons actually have a quietly solid defense, and I think that's going to be the difference in this game. Close game, but I've got the Falcons with the win, 24-17. Next game, we've got the Bills hosting the Cardinals. So this is one of the easier games to predict here in Week 1. The Cardinals are a team not great. They'll probably play a lot of close games, but lose most of them. Kyler Murray is healthy to start the season, and he gets a Bills defense that is without star linebacker Matt Milano, and doesn't have very good safeties. So I could see Kyler Murray having a good game, and the same thing goes for rookie Marvin Harrison Jr. But the Cardinals aren't going to be able to beat the Bills, especially if this becomes a shootout, because even though the Bills have questions at receiver, their offense is still good. Now, I don't think this game will be insanely high scoring. I think the Cardinals keep it close for a while before the Bills pull away. Bills win this one 34-20. Next game, we got the Titans at the Bears. So this is a matchup between two young quarterbacks. As for the Titans, they have Will Levis, and they've surrounded him with a lot of playmakers, and have tried to put him in a position to succeed entering his second season. As they hired Brian Callahan as their head coach, and they also signed Tyler Boyd, Tony Pollard, and Calvin Ridley. Then for the Bears, we got to see number one overall pick Caleb Williams in his first NFL game, and he also has a great supporting cast with DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and fellow first-round pick Rome Odunze. But I like what both teams are doing, building around their quarterbacks. Both teams have potential this season. I'm going to take the Bears to get the win. I think their defense is better, although I don't think Caleb Williams will have the greatest first game, because he is playing against a pretty good Titans secondary. But the Bears have the better defense, that's the difference, and they'll win this one 24-20. Moving on, we've got the Patriots at the Bengals. So this is another game that's fairly easy to predict. The Patriots are one of the worst teams in the NFL, and they're going to be starting Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback, and he's starting over the third overall pick Drake May. Now, Brissett's a good backup, but not necessarily the greatest starter. And the Patriots' offense isn't very good. The offensive line is terrible, and the Patriots won't score much. Then for the Bengals, they have a great offense. Joe Burrow is back healthy, and their offense is great. Although we don't know if Ja'Marr Chase will play, as he might sit out wanting a new contract. But with or without Ja'Marr Chase, the Bengals should win this game pretty easily. I've got them winning 27-9. Moving on, we have the Colts hosting the Texans. So we could see some more young quarterbacks battle here, as CJ Stroud was great as a rookie with the Texans, and he now has a even better supporting cast with the additions of Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs. Then for the Colts, Anthony Richardson is back healthy, and hopefully he can stay healthy this season. But this was a close game back in Week 18 of last season where the winner made the playoffs. Obviously, that ended up being the Texans. I think this game will be close again. I think the Texans are just too good offensively, and I'm going to take them to get the win. But I think this would be a pretty close game, and I could see the Colts with the upset. But I've got the Texans 27-24. Next game, we have the Dolphins hosting the Jaguars. So both teams that fell apart near the end of last season, as Jaguars lost 5 of their last 6 games, the Dolphins lost their last 3, and also 4 of their last 6. But both teams are hoping to start this season off on the right foot. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game, as both teams have great offenses, and the Dolphins lost some key players on the defensive side of the ball in the offseason, and they're also could be without Jalen Phillips and Jalen Ramsey for this game. Then the Jaguars, they improved their offense throughout the offseason, signing Gabe Davis and drafting Brian Thomas Jr. But both teams have good offenses. This can be a high-scoring game. The Dolphins' offense is the better offense. They were the second highest-scoring offense in the NFL last season. Their offense is great once again. And I've got the Dolphins winning this one in a really good, entertaining game, 34-29. Moving on, we have the Panthers at the Saints. So this is another interesting game. The Panthers have done a lot to build around Bryce Young by improving the receivers and offensive line, and also hiring Dave Canales as their head coach. Now, this will be the first game where Dave Canales is a head coach in his career, after he's been mostly an offensive assistant. But the Panthers' offense was terrible last season, scoring under 14 points a game, and they don't have to face a Saints defense that is pretty good and could give them trouble. The Saints are also home, and I'm going to take them to get the win, but this is a game that could go either way. I'll take the Saints 20-17. Next game, we have the Vikings at the Giants. So we definitely have some interesting quarterback matchups this week, as this one is not necessarily a good one, as we have Sam Darnold against Daniel Jones. But this is actually a really interesting matchup, as the Vikings have a great receiver duo of Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and they should be able to torch a terrible Giants secondary outside of Deontay Banks, but the problem is Sam Darnold is their quarterback. Then for the Giants, they're in a similar situation. They have rookie receiver Malik Neighbors, but he's stuck with Daniel Jones as his quarterback. But this is a game I could definitely see going either way. I think the Giants have the slightly better defense because they do have a very good defensive front. But I don't necessarily trust the Giants' ability to score, especially without Saquon Barkley, who's now a member of the Eagles. But I'm going to take the Vikings to get the win here in a very close game, 20-16. But that's a game that could truly go either way. Next game, we have the Chargers hosting the Raiders. So Jim Harbaugh returns to the NFL after he was hired by the Chargers this offseason, and he faces the Raiders in his first NFL game in 10 years. Now, the Raiders are starting Gardner Minshew at quarterback after he beat out Aiden O'Connell, and the Raiders' offense is decent, but nothing too good. This is an interesting matchup between the Chargers' rushing offense and the Raiders' run defense, as the Chargers are going to run the ball a lot, with Jim Harbaugh as their head coach and Greg Roman as their offensive coordinator. Two guys who love to run the football. Now, the Raiders actually have a solid defensive line, and that could cause problems for the Chargers' run game, but in the end, I think the Chargers, they're the better, more talented team. They'll win this one by a score of 21-15. Up next, we got the Broncos at the Seahawks. So the Broncos are starting Bo Nix at quarterback after he won their quarterback battle, but he now has to face a tough Seahawks defense in his first NFL game. Plus, Seattle is one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. For the Seahawks, head coach Mike Macdonald is entering his first ever game as head coach. Now, I don't really have a ton to say about this game, but I think the Seahawks defense is going to control this game. They're going to make things rough for Bo Nix and the Broncos offense, and the Seahawks will win because of their defense, winning 24-13. Up next, we have the Cowboys at the Browns. So this is a really interesting game. Both teams have great defenses and offenses with potential to be great as well. The Cowboys offense is good, but I worry about their run game with Zeke as their lead back, and also I worry about their new look offensive line, especially going against Myles Garrett and a Browns pass rush. Now, the Browns offense, as I said, has potential, but it's really dependent on Deshaun Watson, who hasn't been that good during his time in Cleveland. But both defenses are great, and I think that's going to keep this a lower scoring game. I think Myles Garrett is going to make things a nightmare for the Cowboys offensively, especially since he'll be working against rookie tackle Tyrell Guyton, who's actually never played left tackle in his career, and he's moving over from right tackle to left tackle. But that is just a recipe for disaster, especially going against one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. I've got the Browns winning this one in a close one because of their defense at 21-17. Up next, we got the Buccaneers hosting the Commanders. So we'll get our first look at Jayden Daniels, the number 2 overall pick in this game, but he faces a tough Buccaneers defense. Then on the other side, the Buccaneers re-signed Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, and they have a good offense, and they face a Commanders defense which was terrible a season ago. The Commanders are going to need to hold the Buccaneers under 21 points to have a chance in this game. I don't think that happens, and I think the Buccaneers end up with a convincing 27-14 win. Next game, we have the Rams at the Lions on Sunday Night Football. So we will have a live watch party for this game starting about 8:15 Eastern Time on Sunday. So again, I hope to see you guys there. But this is a rematch from the playoffs where the Lions won that matchup 24-23. Matthew Stafford will now return to Ford Field for the second time. And the Rams, they have a great offense. Obviously, Stafford's a good quarterback and really isn't slowing down despite his age. And he's got great weapons around him like Kyren Williams, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua. Then the Lions also have a great offense. And I think the Lions are the better defensive team, but with how good I think both offenses could be, I think this game will turn into a shootout, and I've got the Lions winning this one in an entertaining back-and-forth battle, 33-27. And finally, Monday Night Football, the Jets at the 49ers. So we will also have a live watch party for this game that will start at about 8:10 on Monday. So again, I hope to see you guys there. And if you guys are wondering, I do live watch parties for every Sunday night and Monday Night Football game in the NFL season. But the Jets are back on Monday Night Football to start the season, the same place they were last year when Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. Now they are on the road this time, but they're playing against Leonard Floyd, who is the player who sacked Rodgers when he suffered his injury. So that is just a wild storyline there. But as far as the game goes, this should be good. Both defenses are good, both offenses are good as well. I actually think the Jets have a chance as long as we can see Aaron Rodgers for more than 4 plays this time around. But this is a tough game to predict. The 49ers, I think, are the slightly better overall team. They're home as well, and I'm going to take them to win a close one, 23-20. But those are my Week 1 NFL predictions. Be sure to check out the community tab of my channel, where you guys can vote on who you think will win some of this week's games. But those are my Week 1 NFL predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.